It is now time to go over my top 10 albums of 2024. I know I'm a few days late. I just had to make sure I listened to some albums that I was interested in before finalizing my list to make sure that everything was as accurate as I could make it. We do have an honorable mention. I originally wanted this to be in the list, but I felt like it was kind of unfair just because most of the album is just straight up from singles that had been from like 2017 or 2019. I forgot. The majority of the album was already pretty much released before the actual album even came out, and it was Popular Monster by Falling in Reverse. At first, I was kind of mixed about it because while I did enjoy the singles that were on the album, some of the new songs didn't hit as well for me, at least in the initial listen. After repeated listens, I ended up really liking the album. It really shined for me. But like I said, it's an honorable mention because most of it is just singles and I felt like it was kind of unfair. But this is a pretty solid project. I do like it. Now, getting to the nitty gritty. For number 10 on the list, we have Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter. Now, this is an album that I enjoyed a lot in my initial listen, but I did state that the instrumentals were kind of either boring or a little bit too basic at times, or most of the time. I do like her personality and like it shows through her vocal delivery and the lyrics, but while I did give this album a 10 out of 10 on the initial listen, I did state that again, I didn't really like the instrumentals, and after repeated listens, it kind of just started getting like I didn't feel like the 10 out of 10 was justified. I ended up giving it a 9 out of 10, like a 91 out of 100 if I remember correctly. This is a good summer album. I do still enjoy it, but it ranks up at number 10, which would probably be a shock to a lot of people who heard me sing the praises of this album even now. So, there you go. Number 10. For number 9, Charm by Claro. I was actually interested in this album because of a single I had heard on TikTok from, I believe it was actually her TikTok page. I'm not sure. I've heard some songs from her before, and while they're good, it never really like drew me in. But this album had me like really interested, especially just from the album cover in general. It felt like it was gonna be like a really good album. And I was actually genuinely surprised. It was not experimental. It was psychedelic, and I did enjoy it because the instrumentals were nice and just very chill. It had like a lot of variety, and it reminded me a lot of like The Doors, which is one of my favorite. I was gonna say albums, one of my favorite bands. But yeah, this album was pretty solid. I believe I gave this a 9 out of 10 as well. 91 probably. And that's number 9. For number 8, we got an album that I was actually interested in as well because of the band's TikTok. I know that I actually saw this from the TikToks. We got Submarine by the Marias. I was interested in this album because it sounded like my kind of album, and I was not disappointed. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it a good amount, and will listen to previous projects whenever I can. This was pretty good. I do like it. That's pretty much all I gotta say about it. Number 7, we have Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. Now, this was one of the albums I was actually anticipating a lot because notoriously, I was not really a huge Billie Eilish fan. I didn't mind some of the songs, but I felt like it just wasn't my thing. But this one knocked it out of the park for me. It's pretty solid. I think it like really shines. I felt like it was like a perfection of her craft that she's been working on for years. And I'm really happy with this album. It's like my favorite from her discography. I believe I also gave this one a 9 out of 10. Right now we're in like the 9 out of 10 albums. So I believe it was like 98 maybe. I don't know. But Yeah, this was by far my favorite Billie Eilish album, and it's really good. For number 6, Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande. Now, this is pretty much being biased because I just really love Ariana Grande. She's one of my favorite artists, female artists. And while I do understand that it might be a little too basic and not really like that evolved from her previous work, I did like it a lot. I had a good time. I've listened to this album like so many times. And overall, I do believe that this is a really good project. It's just the last song, I believe, on the album that kind of throws me off every now and then, but it's a 9 out of 10. I still love it a lot and can't wait to see when she releases her next album, if she ever does. Shout out Wicked. That movie was really good because she was just so funny, dude. Ariana Grande is just so funny. Number 5, I can't put the album artwork because I'll probably get like the video taken down or whatever. I don't know what would happen, but I'm not gonna risk it. For number 5, we got Vultures 1. Now, originally Vultures 1 was like way higher. I've listened to that album for like hella times. That's like one of my number 1 albums of 2024. That album was too goated. I was hella surprised with how it performed. The reason why it went down on the list was because officially it has like a set amount of songs that it came out with during release. One of them being my favorite song from that album, which is Good Don't Die. Now, since then, there's been a lot of legal shit going on, which is understandable. But that song is no longer like even part of the album at this point, unless you own that version or you just listen to it somewhere else. And because of that, I'm pissed and I deduct points from the album. I know it's not their fault, but it is what it is. So that's the reason why it's number 5, even though it's a banger. They took off my favorite song, so fuck y'all. For number 4, we have another controversial album. Keep in mind, Vultures 1, and this album is pretty controversial in the music scene. For Vultures 1 is for obvious reasons, and then for this album, which is number 4, Like All Before You by The Voids. I actually really enjoy this album. It hits all the right spots for me. I enjoy it and listen to it all the time. I even listened to it today on my drive, and I just think it's a very solid project. By the way, this is where we hit the 10 out of 10 marks. This album is 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. A huge problem with people was just that the artwork, which is understandable. AI is very mixed. I personally don't really fuck with it, and it would have been cool to see what I think they actually released what the actual album was, like the album artwork that they were aiming for originally, and because of that, it rubbed a lot of people wrong, and they kind of just like didn't fuck with the project. I believe, and this is just me. To be fair, I still haven't heard Virtues. I've only heard the first album and this one. This album sounds pretty much what The Voids does. Their previous single that got like a 2.0, I don't remember the name of the song, and I listen to it like all the time. I don't know. That song sounds pretty much, at least vocals wise, like the effects, what they do here in this album, which I understand it could be kind of like auto tune or just voice effects, or just kind of like, if you like it you like it, if you don't you don't. I'm pretty weird when it comes to shit like this. I actually really enjoy stuff that sounds very experimental and just like you're kind of messing with sounds. It's like this hit all the right parts of my brain, and I just really enjoy it till this day. 10 out of 10. For number 3, this shit's hella tiny, but This Is How Tomorrow Moves by forgive me if I say it wrong. I always say it wrong. B Badoobie. I was generally excited for this album because her previous one, I liked it, but it wasn't like as good as I thought it could be. I just didn't really mess with it all that much. But I heard like the singles, like The Way Things Go, then the Loewe single, and then all the singles that were leading up to this album, and I was actually really excited for it. And when I finally gave it a chance, I was blown away. It was like pretty much, if I could compare it, the previous album was like Sour from Olivia Rodrigo, while this one's like Guts. And I don't mean it by like the instrumentals. I just mean like the shift. It just felt like it was actually a little bit more um like she found her ground, and now it's like really honed in. At least for now. I don't know what she's gonna do for the next album, but I enjoy this project. It was 10 out of 10. It blew me away, and I'm excited for what she does later on in the future because yeah, this shit's my jam. Every time I see it at the store, I just feel like buying it again. All right, so for number 2, this wasn't my album of the year for the longest until number 1 came up, and it is. It's also very tiny. Scrapyard by Quadeca. Now, I was very excited because like of the whole premise that went around the release of this project. It was very exciting, and the songs, the singles were really good to listen to. I'm a huge Quadeca fan, and I just really loved From Me to You, I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, and then now this project. He's just been evolving and finding his own sound, and he's really good at it. And this is just like the scrapped material from I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, or just whatever he felt like didn't fit the next album that he's currently working on. And for that, that shit's crazy, bro. Especially because like a lot of people like this album, and rightfully so, because this is fucking perfection, dude. Like, this is a really good album. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend you should. But again, this kind of hits like experimental, like a lot of the experimental side of music, which is like my bread and butter. But if you didn't like all before you might be kind of turned off by Scrapyard. You might like a few songs, but I think from like the project as a whole, you might not like it. For number 1, we got Chromacopia. Now, as soon as I found out that this was gonna drop, I was like, damn, my list is in shambles. Scrapyard was there for like the longest time, and I don't know if it was gonna make it out. And unfortunately, it didn't. We had some casualties, but it is what it is. This album, too good, bro. There's too much variety, and there's just so many styles that like Tyler the Creator has pretty much mastered and honed in, and Homeboy just knows how to blend those styles and make it like sound fresh and exciting and just take you into a whole new world, whichever character he's playing. But there goes my top 10 albums of 2024. Will I do top 10 movies and video games? I'm not sure. I don't know if I've really done much of 2024 for those specifically. So probably not, or I'll probably just announce it some other time. But hopefully y'all enjoyed the list. Let me know what your guys' top 10 were, or if anything, uh, what you felt about my placement. But yeah, y'all take care, stay safe, wipe your ass.